story resumes in the immediate wake of Part 2. Darth Sidious did not hesitate the moment Yavin IV was revealed. He moved like a blade finally drawn from its sheath. Years of patience, years of planning, years of waiting for the Jedi to gather in one place again. Now they had. And with the Death Star fully operational, Sidious began executing his final plan. He moved the station into position, slowly and deliberately, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. In one clean sweep, in one shot, Yavin IV would burn, and with it, the rebellion and the reborn Jedi Order would vanish together. This was more than a battle to him. It was a reset and a fresh start. A galaxy with no Jedi, no rebellion, no loose ends for him to deal with. On Yavin IV, hope and urgency lived side by side. Inside the Massassi temples, the leaders of the rebellion and the new Jedi Order stood together in one place. Senators, generals, Jedi masters, rebel officers, familiar faces gathered under the stone walls that had become a sanctuary. Mon Mothma, Padme Amidala, Bail Organa, Admiral Akbar, Captain Rex, Commander Cody, and dozens more who had survived long enough to make it here. Spread across the main table were the stolen Death Star plans. The same plans pulled from Scarif at great cost. The same flawed Galen Erso had buried in the machine like a final act of regret. They studied the schematics with focused silence. Then the conclusion hit them all at once. An exhaust port, a small opening leading to a chain reaction that could rip the entire station apart. One shot with a proton torpedo, which was a 1 in a million chance, but it was their only hope. And for the first time since the Empire rose, it felt like the galaxy had a crack of light to push through. Then the alarms began to scream. A harsh, steady blare echoed through the base. Lights flashed out. Officers rushed into the chamber. A screen lit up with a single image that made the air go cold. Death Star had just emerged from hyperspace, not above them yet, but on the far side of Yavin Prime. It had arrived. They had some time, but not enough. The plan they thought they could polish and prepare had just become something they had to do right now. Voices rose and confusion spread through the room fast. People started asking the same questions from every angle. How they'd been found, what mistake had been made, whether someone had leaked something, whether the path had been compromised. For a few seconds it felt like panic might swallow the whole meeting. But the veterans in the room didn't let it take hold. Obi-Wan and Yoda stayed ready, their calm presence grounding everyone without effort. Padme and Mon Mothma stepped in with the kind of practiced control that held the rebellion together, and Bail Organa and Admiral Akbar helped put the room back into order. Little by little, the fear turned into focus, and the noise became something they could actually move through. And once the chaos settled, the truth was simple. They didn't have time to spiral, but they did have time to act. They had one plan: destroy the Death Star. Next, everyone split into motion. The senators and rebel officers stay on the ground. Padme, Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, the people who keep the rebellion together with their minds, will be eyes and ears from there. Yoda and Obi-Wan stay as well, too old to fly into a dogfight, but not stepping away from the fight itself. They choose the ground because they can already feel where the real danger is heading. And out in the hangars the strike team forms. Anakin, Luke, Leia, Ahsoka, Rex and Cody, suited up again like the old days. Only this time they're not fighting for a republic that's already dead. They're fighting for something that might actually live. The best rebel pilots left in the system climb to X-Wings, Y-Wings, A-Wings, B-Wings, Jedi pilots strap in beside them, as well as the Ghost crew. Then the ships turn on. Then the hangar doors open. And they launch. Space is already on fire when they arrive. TIE fighters, interceptors, and bombers swarm like insects. Imperial Star Destroyers sit in the background like walls. Laser fire stitches across the stars. Rebel and Imperial ships vanish in bright flashes that leave nothing behind. Still, they push forward because if they don't, everyone on Yavin dies. Then Anakin sees something that makes his stomach drop. TIE fighters are breaking away from the main fight, not chasing the rebel fighters, heading to the surface and the base. A possible ground attack with a flood of ships heading in that direction. Anakin feels it before anyone can explain it, like a sudden pressure in the Force, dark and heavy, pushing into the system. And it isn't just one presence, it's a mass of them, moving together, closing in on Yavin fast. They're Inquisitors, and a lot of them. So many that the darkness feels layered and tangled, like a storm front rolling toward the moon. Ships passing through the chaos of the space battle and angling down toward Yavin, toward the temples, and Anakin can feel exactly where they're headed, like the Force itself is warning him. Is it a distraction or a purge being set in motion? Time to hit the sanctuary while the Death Star keeps sliding into position above. Anakin doesn't hesitate. The moment he understands what's happening, he reacts. He immediately redirects Ahsoka and orders her to turn back with a group of Jedi pilots, knowing the temple won't hold against that kind of assault without help. He signals back to base, alerting them of this impending threat. The ground defenses become just as urgent as the trench run, because if the temple falls, it won't matter whether the Death Star is destroyed or not. Ahsoka breaks away without argument. She takes her group and dives back toward the surface as fast as her ship can carry her. She peels off with several Jedi pilots, diving back toward the jungle below. They intercept what they can, a few ships are destroyed, but it's a small dent in something huge. Most of them still get through. Up in space, the fight tightens. Anakin, Luke, and Leia fly like they've been doing this their whole lives, because in a way, they have. They pick off ties, carve through formations, but every time they destroy one ship, two more fill the gap. It feels endless, so Anakin makes the call. He swings wide, drawing the swarm after him. Luke and Leia follow, dragging the bulk of the Imperial fighters away from the line. It's risky, but it creates a thin corridor, just enough space for someone else to slip through. One rebel ship after another take the opening and dive for the Death Star surface. For a moment it looks like they're going to make it. Then their ships break apart in a flash of light. Gone. That little opening closes again, and the Death Star keeps moving. More pilots try, rebels, and among them, some clones like Rex, Cody, and a few surviving brothers who chose to keep fighting even after everything the Empire did to them. They fly like the old days, like it's just another impossible mission, but the Death Star isn't a separatist fleet, and the Empire isn't holding back. Rex's voice comes through the comm one last time, steady as always, cutting through the chaos with the calm of someone who's lived his whole life in war. He doesn't go looking for a clean shot or a flashy kill. He does what he's always done. He reads the battlefield and goes where the line is about to break. A burst of Imperial fire catches one of the rebel pilots near him, sending the ship spinning and vulnerable. Rex swings in close, tight and controlled, and physically shields the damaged fighter long enough for it to stabilize and pull away. He keeps himself between the pilot and the swarm, drawing the ties onto his tail and away from the trench run lane. They chase him hard. He leads them off the main approach, threading through wreckage and laser fire, forcing them to follow him farther and farther out, and then he finally runs out of maneuvers. When there's nowhere left to dodge, he holds steady anyway, keeping them occupied right up until the end. Then his signal cuts out, swallowed by the battle as his ship disappears in the fire and noise. He falls as a soldier, a warrior to the very last second. Cody stays in longer than he should because he understands what this moment is to make sure the mission doesn't die. He sees a group of rebel fighters trying to line up another run and realizes they're about to get cut apart before they even reach the surface. So he dives straight into the worst of it to force the Imperials to look at him instead. He flies hard and close, carving through the chaos with disciplined precision, breaking up attacks before they can land and clearing a path that shouldn't exist. His ship starts taking damage fast. Panels flicker, warnings scream. The controls fight back in his hands. But Cody keeps the noise pointed forward and keeps firing anyway, holding the lane open long enough for the next pilot to commit. And when the final hit comes, when he knows he isn't making it out, he uses what's left of his speed to drive straight into the heart of the Imperial formation, breaking it apart the exact moment it matters most. When his signal finally cuts out, the lane is still open, and the fighters behind him are still flying, so like Rex, he dies facing the enemy head-on, like a warrior. And while the battle surges on, Sidious' plan keeps moving. But why were the Inquisitors ordered to the surface? What game was he playing? He never meant for this to be a clean fight in space. The battle above Yavin is only one part of it, because Sidious has already played his other card. He's grown tired of the Inquisitors. They were sloppy and lacked the kind of power Sidious truly wanted as master. They were useful, but they were weak, and Sidious has never kept a tool longer than he has to. So he promised them power and a reward, a future if they succeeded. He fed them exactly what they wanted to hear, because he knew it would drive them straight into the fire without hesitation. But the truth was simple. He never planned to give them anything. His intention was to erase them too. Kill the Jedi, the Rebellion, and the Inquisitors with the Death Star with one shot, and start fresh. And with the Death Star plan stolen, his urgency only sharpened. The station was a weapon, but now was also a liability. If he wiped Yavin off the map, there would be no Rebellion left to rally, no Jedi left to rebuild, and anyone still flying nearby could be hunted down in the aftermath. So while the Death Star slid into firing position, the purge below began to take shape. On the surface, the jungle is no longer quiet. The Inquisitors land on the outskirts, like a dark wave rolling in. They move through the trees with purpose, marching straight for the temple. The remaining members of the rebellion, those who didn't join the fight in space, set up to defend the base and those inside it, every second squeezed for life. But there are too many Inquisitors getting too close too fast. Obi-Wan and Yoda stand at the edge of the temple grounds, looking out into the jungle like they're watching the tide come in. They both understand the same thing without saying it. If the Inquisitors reach the temple before its defenses are ready, it's over. Obi-Wan has lived the same moment before in a different form. In the original timeline, he stepped onto the Death Star and gave his life to buy Luke a few more seconds, just enough time to escape, because the future needed time. And now in Yavin, he feels that same truth again. Only this time he isn't alone. So they step forward, two Jedi Masters walking into the trees, to buy the time the others need, one last time. The Inquisitors sense them immediately. They've been trained and built for this, but even they hesitate when they realize who they're facing. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. Names that still carry fear even in an empire that claims the Jedi are dead. The Inquisitors rush them in waves, 5, 6 at once, with more behind them. Obi-Wan and Yoda use the jungle to their advantage. They mislead them, pull them off course, split the wave, force them to fight blind for a few seconds at a time. But numbers are numbers, and they know what they're really doing, buying time. When the moment comes, when the wave is too heavy, when the line is about to break, they stop resisting the truth of it, and they let go. Inquisitors swing, and Obi-Wan disappears, vanishing into the Force the way Qui-Gon promised was possible. Then more Inquisitors swing, and Yoda disappears too. The Inquisitors stumble back, confused and thrown off by something they can't understand. That hesitation is the opening the base needs, as well as Ahsoka and her Jedi fleet to make it back in time to defend the base. Up in space, Anakin feels it like a sudden emptiness. Two presences he has known for most of his life, shifting out of reach. For a split second it feels like loss, then it becomes something else, something calmer and deeper, like the Force itself settling around him. And then he feels them as the Force pressing in around him with a familiar kind of guidance. It's like Obi-Wan's calm and Yoda's clarity are both there at once, urging him in the same direction, pulling him away from doubt and back into instinct. Trust the Force. Let it guide you. Anakin's hands tighten around the controls. He doesn't know every detail of what happened on the surface, but deep down he understands enough. And there isn't time to stop and mourn. Not now, because the Death Star must be destroyed. He signals Luke and Leia to lock onto him and cover his approach. They move into position instantly, flanking him without hesitation, ready to clear his tail and keep the line open. Then Anakin dives. The trench run is louder than it should be, even in space. Cannons hammer the air around him, ties screaming behind. His ship shakes. Warnings flash across his console. Luke and Leia keep the pressure off his tail, cutting down anything that gets too close, flying like they can see the next second before it happens. And in the middle of the chaos, Anakin's mind goes strangely quiet and focuses. The voices are there, Obi-Wan, Yoda, like hands guiding without touching. Anakin lines up the shot. He doesn't overthink it, he just trusts the Force. Then he fires. The torpedo drops into the exhaust port, and the Death Star starts to break apart from the inside. Cracks of light race across the surface. The station trembles, the core ignites, then it explodes with a bright light. For a second, everything goes white. And then the stars come back. The Imperial fleet scatters in shock. Ties peel away, ships turn and run. On Yavin, cheers erupt, but the battle isn't done. The Death Star is gone, but Sidious's damage is still here, down on Yavin, inside the jungle, at the edges of the temple. Anakin has taken the station away from Sidious. He's taken the clean ending Sidious wanted. He's taken the one strike that would have erased everyone at once. Now Anakin, his children, and the rest of the rebel fighters turn back quickly to Yavin to help aid in their last stand. And what's left turns ugly. The Inquisitors are still on the moon now, cut off, still furious with nowhere to go but forward. And instead of retreating, they press harder. Stranded and angry, they keep attacking, trying to finish with blades what the Death Star couldn't finish with fire. A large group of Inquisitors pushes toward the temple, not knowing they're the last thing the Empire's left in this system. Right outside the temple, Jedi brace for impact. Ahsoka returns to the front line with the Jedi she brought back. Quinlan Voss stands among them, along with Cal Kestis and other survivors of Order 66, fighters tied to the path, people who refuse to die quietly, and the three infiltrators still posing as the Jedi among them. For a moment, a standoff forms. Many red blades facing far fewer blue and green ones. Then the fight ensues. Sparks fly, bodies fall, the Jedi fight hard, but they're being squeezed from every side. And even after the Death Star is destroyed, after the cheers, there's no relief, because the Inquisitors don't stop. If anything, they get worse. They press harder, desperate now. The temple starts to feel like it's about to break. At first, the Jedi hold the line. They're disciplined, measured, fighting with purpose. They move as a unit, covering each other, and for a moment it almost works. Then their numbers start to fall, and a feeling of betrayal begins to take shape. The three infiltrators posing as Jedi begin to show their true colors. They begin to take down some Jedi from behind before they join the Inquisitors, receiving their masks from them and putting them on, continuing to fight. All this as the remaining Jedi start to realize what is really happening. They have been betrayed. Along with this, the Inquisitors keep coming, wave after wave, and every time one goes down, another steps over the body without hesitation. Red blades fill the air like a spreading fire. The air grows hot with sparks and smoke. The Jedi are forced backwards, inch by inch. Ahsoka is everywhere at once, trying to plug holes faster than they open. Quinlan fights like a man refusing to lose another home. Cal Kestis throws himself into the chaos with the same stubborn fire that kept him alive for years, meeting every wave like he has no intention of breaking now. Other survivors, Jedi who have been running for years, dig their heels in and try to anchor down, but the pressure is building. One by one, Jedi start to fall as Inquisitors leap over the fallen and drive forward until there are only 3 Jedi left, Ahsoka, Quinlan Vos, and Cal Kestis. It starts to feel less like a battle and more like the end, and not because the Jedi stopped fighting, but because the temple itself feels like it's being swallowed. The distance between the Inquisitors and the entrance to the base shrinks with every second. The doors behind the Jedi, the doors protecting this new order and rebellion, feel closer than it should. Too close. And the worst part is the feeling in the Force. Like the dark side is pressing against the walls, trying to crush the life out of everything inside. The Jedi are still standing, but barely. One more push, and their sanctuary falls. Then ships roar overhead. Anakin, Luke, and Leia return. They drop into the fight, and everything freezes up for a second. Inquisitors staring, Jedi staring, like the Force itself just shifted in the room. Then the fighting explodes again, but this time it's different, because Anakin is back, and Luke and Leia with him. Anakin steps forward to meet the remaining Inquisitors head on. For a moment, the whole fight seems to hesitate, like even the air is waiting to see what happens next. The Inquisitors have been trained to hunt survivors, isolated, tired, frightened Jedi. They have never had to face Anakin Skywalker like this. They circle him anyway. Red blades ignite in a harsh chorus, and they come in waves, trying to overwhelm him with numbers, the way they've overwhelmed everyone else. But it doesn't work. Anakin doesn't back up. He doesn't even look fazed. He moves like the battle is slower for him than it is for anyone else. Taking Inquisitors with him to take the fight away from the remaining Jedi, the first Inquisitor lunges, swinging high, aggressive, and desperate. Anakin turns his wrist and catches the strike like it's nothing, then pivots into a counter that forces the Inquisitor to stumble. Before the attacker can recover, Anakin uses the Force to shove him off balance and drives him down into the stone, killing him. The red blade sputters out. 2 more rush him at the same time. One tries to flank, one goes straight for him. Anakin steps between their attacks, and the blows slide past him, missing by inches. His blade flashes once, clean and efficient, disarming one of them. The saber spins away and skitters across the ground. The other swings again, angry now, and Anakin answers with a sharp burst of Force energy that knocks the attacker backwards into the others, collapsing their formation. They try to regroup, but Anakin doesn't let them. He moves forward, controlling the space, controlling the rhythm of the fight. Every time an Inquisitor tries to build momentum, he breaks it. A heavy strike comes down. Anakin meets it and redirects it either out of the way or into another Inquisitor. A kick comes in low. Anakin sidesteps and pulls the attacker off their feet with the Force. Another leaps, trying to bring both blades down at once. Anakin catches them midair, holds them there like they're suspended in time, then hurls them back into the line of Inquisitors so hard the others have to scatter. The Inquisitors start fighting harder, faster, desperate to land something. Their anger makes them loud, and their movements get sloppy, and Anakin sees every opening. He doesn't just block their strikes, he takes things away from them. He strips weapons from hands without touching them. He tears pieces of the environment into the fight, chunks of broken stone, fallen columns, shattered temple debris. A slab rips free and slams into an Inquisitor mid-swing, crushing their momentum and killing them. A burst of Force pressure hits another in the chest and sends them skidding across the ground like they're weightless, also killing them in the process. He pulls one close, turns their forward rush against them, and nearby the rest of the temple battle is still raging. Luke and Leia aren't at Anakin's side. They're deeper along the line, where the remaining Jedi are being pressed and stretched thin. They move through the chaos with focus, jumping into fights where the line is about to break, stepping in front of blows and cutting off Inquisitors who try to slip through the main clash. Leia catches one in mid-charge, stopping the red blade with a firm block and driving the attacker back with quick, controlled strikes that keep the fight away. Luke drops into another pocket of chaos where Quinlan and Cal are getting overwhelmed, and he turns the pressure, disarming one Inquisitor and forcing another to retreat long enough for them to reset. Meanwhile, Anakin becomes the setter of the storm. They come at him again, 3 at once, and Anakin doesn't retreat, he steps into them. His blade becomes a line of blue light that never stops moving. Parry, deflect, counter, throwing his lightsaber. Everything disciplined and precise. Every swing and strike is purpose. And with every exchange, the Inquisitors look less like hunters and more like what they really are, tools. A shadow army that never had to face the real thing. One Inquisitor tries to hit him with fear, lunging recklessly, screaming, trying to force hesitation. Anakin doesn't even blink. He catches the blade, twists, and the Inquisitor's grip breaks. The saber drops, and the attacker slams to the ground so hard that the stone cracks beneath them, killing him as the red blade goes out. Another tries to escape, to reposition, to find an opening behind him. Anakin senses it without looking. He reaches out with the Force and yanks the attacker back, like a puppet on a string. The Inquisitor crashes to their knees in front of him, stunned. Anakin ends it quickly, with a clean finality protecting what's behind him, fighting for the Temple, the younglings inside, the rebellion, for the Jedi still standing their ground, for Padme and his family, and for the future. The Inquisitors keep coming, but their confidence is gone now. They hesitate, they glance at each other, they realize they're not fighting a tired survivor. They're fighting the man Sidious was terrified would never break. And when the last few finally rush him, it's not a coordinated attack anymore. It's panic disguised as courage. Anakin meets them with the Force like a storm. He throws one into another. He rips the saber out of one's hand and sends it into the other. He shatters their footing with a shockwave that makes them stagger. He steps through the mess and ends each fight in seconds with no wasted motion, slashing each one. One by one, the red blades go out, and when it's over, the silence feels almost unreal. Anakin stands in the aftermath, breathing steady, blades still humming, surrounded by fallen enemies. The temple is still standing, and as long as it stands, the fight still has a future. Afterward, they mourn. They mourn the Jedi who fell defending the base. They mourn the pilots and among them clones who died in the sky, brothers who chose to fight for the light when they didn't have to. And they mourn Obi-Wan and Yoda most of all. There is no body to burn, no remains to lay rest, only the quiet understanding that they have become something more. And in the stillness that follows, they appear to Anakin through the Force, luminous, at peace, and unchanged in all ways that matter, reassuring him that they are not truly gone, and that they will always be with him. Still, the Jedi honor them the way Jedi always have, with ceremony, with silence, with respect, with the knowledge that they are not truly gone. They are part of the Force now, and they will be heard again. Across the galaxy, word spreads like wildfire. The Death Star is destroyed. The Empire is beaten. People celebrate in places they forgot how to celebrate in. Planets rise up. Imperial flags are torn down. For the first time in years, the galaxy dares to believe it has a future. From that victory, the New Republic forms, built by people who remember what the Old Republic did wrong and refuse to let it happen again. Padme helps guide it, Mon Mothma helps shape it, Bail Organa helps stabilize it. Leia stands in the middle of it too, not only as a Jedi, but as someone who understands leadership in her bones. Luke takes his spot in the new Jedi Order where he becomes the future along with Leia. Ahsoka remains what she's always been, a guardian who doesn't need a title, and Anakin Skywalker stands at the head of it all, alive and finally free. The Jedi rebuild under his leadership as a living order, connected and united. However, Sidious was never a man without contingencies, and somewhere, far from celebration, far from the temples, far from the firelight, there could be a whisper, a presence, a shadow that shouldn't still exist, something ancient reaching for life again. Because if Sidious truly believed his death was possible, then he would not have left his fate to chance. He was a Sith who dug through the oldest and darkest knowledge the Order had left behind, chasing every forbidden path to power, every secret that promised control over death itself. Essence transfer was the kind of power he would have sought, the ancient Sith art of casting one's spirit beyond the dying body and forcing it into something else, some waiting vessel, some prepared shell, some fragile thread of life strong enough to hold him just a little longer. And if that's true, then this wasn't the end, only the beginning of what possibly comes next.